The warning surrounding Phil Mickelson could not be more serious. Forfeit the millions LIV Golf claims he never earned, or prepare for a potential breach of contract lawsuit. After years of controversy surrounding his decision to leave the PGA Tour, Mickelson now faces a completely different kind of pressure, one measured not by public criticism, but by contracts, money, and legal consequences. If this dispute escalates, his historic LIV payday could become one of the biggest liabilities of his career. But behind closed doors in Saudi Arabia and London, that dream scenario has devolved into a bitter legal nightmare. In a staggering turn of events, LIV Golf executives have reportedly issued a formal legal ultimatum to their marquee star: forfeit tens of millions in unearned upfront money, or prepare to defend himself against a high-profile breach of contract lawsuit. Before we break down why LIV Golf is reportedly demanding millions back from Phil Mickelson and what a potential breach of contract lawsuit could mean for his future, tell us what you think. Do you believe Mickelson should be forced to return money he allegedly hasn't earned? Or should LIV honor the original deal? Comment legal if you want to see more stories exposing the biggest controversies and power struggles in professional golf. And if you enjoy these deep dives, subscribe now so you don't miss the next major golf bombshell. The ultimate irony in sports business is playing out in real time. The very league that lured Mickelson away with promises of guaranteed wealth and player empowerment is now utilizing the fine print of his contract to demand that money back. What was supposed to be the ultimate triumph of his 30-year career has transformed into a high-stakes financial standoff, one that threatens to shatter Mickelson's reputation, expose the hidden realities of mega contracts in professional golf, and alter the balance of power across the entire sport. Partnership forged in unimaginable wealth reached this point of total rupture. You have to look back at the mechanics of the original deal signed in June 2022. When Mickelson signed on the dotted line, headlines trumpeted a $200 million guaranteed payout. To the casual fan, it sounded like a massive lump sum wire transfer, a signing bonus given simply for changing tours. But in the world of high-stakes corporate sports contracts, guaranteed money is rarely unconditional. In reality, Mickelson's multi-year contract was structured as an intricate advance against specific performance metrics, operational duties, and global marketing commitments. As the designated captain of the High Flyers GC franchise, Mickelson wasn't just hired as a player, he was brought on as a brand ambassador, team executive, and primary promotional engine for the entire league. The agreement mandated his active participation in every scheduled LIV Golf event across the globe, mandatory corporate sponsor appearances, media availability, and strategic development for his team. Crucially, the contract included clawback provisions, standard clauses in major sports agreements that grant the league the right to reclaim advanced funds if the athlete fails to fulfill their contractually obligated duties. While Mickelson received a substantial portion of his compensation up front, those funds were legally tethered to his ongoing compliance with the league's operational requirements. For the first 2 years, the arrangement held firm, but as personal challenges, missed promotional windows, and unfulfilled obligations began to mount, the delicate balance between guaranteed pay and mandatory performance completely unraveled. Tension between Mickelson and LIV Golf management finally reached a breaking point over specific contractual guarantees. When the league conducted its internal financial audits, compliance officers flagged a growing list of unfulfilled player obligations. At the center of the dispute was a series of missed tournament starts, unapproved absences during key international promotional tours, and a decline in required sponsor activations. While LIV Golf's initial pitch promised players unprecedented flexibility, the actual language within their legally binding agreements enforced strict attendance requirements. As captain of High Flyers GC, Mickelson was expected to be the anchor of the league's global narrative. Instead, personal hiatuses and extended leaves of absence created significant friction with league leadership. Substitute players were brought in to fill his spot on the roster, but from an executive standpoint, the commercial value of the team was severely compromised without its primary star. Furthermore, performance metrics tied to broadcast viewership and corporate sponsorships began to suffer. LIV Golf investors, having funneled hundreds of millions of dollars into player guarantees, expected maximum availability and active promotion in exchange for their capital. When Mickelson's participation fell short of the contractual baseline, executives argued that the league was paying maximum compensation for partial availability. What Mickelson viewed as permissible personal time, the league categorized as a material breach of contract, setting off a collision course that quickly moved from internal boardrooms to legal representation. When internal discussions broke down, LIV Golf's corporate leadership escalated the dispute from executive negotiations to formal legal proceedings. Through their outside counsel, the league issued a formal demand letter to Mickelson's representatives, delivering a stark ultimatum that sent shockwaves through his legal camp: voluntarily forfeit tens of millions of dollars in unearned upfront funds, or face a public breach of contract lawsuit in international court. The legal mechanism behind the league's demand hinges on the strict clawback provisions embedded deep within Mickelson's original multi-year contract. Under the agreement's compliance terms, guaranteed compensation is legally structured as an advance earned incrementally through active participation, team leadership, and commercial promotion. LIV Golf's legal team contends that because Mickelson failed to meet the required threshold of mandatory starts and promotional engagements over the evaluated calendar year, a substantial portion of his upfront payout remains contractually unearned. Rather than quietly resolving the discrepancy behind closed doors, LIV Golf's leadership signaled that they were fully prepared to litigate the matter publicly if necessary. For a league that spent billions of dollars attempting to project financial invincibility and player-first governance using its biggest marquee signing, represents an unprecedented tactical shift. It sends a chilling message to every player on the roster. Guaranteed money is tied strictly to contractual performance, and no superstar, regardless of their status or legendary career, is immune to clawback enforcement when contractual obligations are breached. With tens of millions of dollars hanging in the balance, Mickelson found himself backed into a corner, forced to either surrender a massive portion of his fortune or engage in a ruinous legal battle against the very entity he helped build. Before we continue breaking down Mickelson's legal defense and the alleged promises that could determine the outcome of this massive financial dispute, let us know where you're watching from today. Drop your city or country in the comments. We'd love to see just how far this story has reached. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into one of golf's biggest contract controversies, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next major development. Faced with a massive financial clawback demand, Phil Mickelson's legal team immediately began assembling a robust defense strategy designed to counter LIV Golf's allegations. Central to Mickelson's position is what his attorneys describe as the handshake trap, a fundamental conflict between the rigid written terms of his initial contract and the verbal commitments made by early league executives. Mickelson's camp, during the frantic early days of LIV Golf's launch, repeatedly assured their premier star that he would enjoy unparalleled schedule flexibility. These informal understandings allegedly permitted Mickelson to take extended personal leaves to address pressing family health matters without fear of financial penalty. Mickelson's defense argues that these verbal assurances effectively modified his contractual obligations, creating a legitimate expectation that his temporary absences were fully sanctioned by the league. However, as LIV Golf matured from a disruptive startup into a structured corporate entity, newly appointed executive leadership and strict corporate auditors began applying the exact letter of the written contract. Mickelson's attorneys contend that holding him retroactively liable for schedule adjustments that were verbally approved creates an inequitable trap. By enforcing strict clawback penalties against a legendary player who acted on good faith assurances, Mickelson's team argues that LIV Golf is attempting to rewrite the history of their agreement to recoup capital. With both sides standing firm on opposing interpretations of the contract, the dispute threatens to expose the chaotic inner workings of golf's most controversial league. The fallout from this high-profile rift extends far beyond Phil Mickelson's personal bank account. It strikes at the very heart of professional golf's ongoing structural revolution. When LIV Golf first entered the scene, its primary selling point to top-tier talent was absolute financial security, a stark contrast to the PGA Tour's merit-based model, where players only earn when they make the cut. By offering guaranteed nine-figure contracts, LIV successfully disrupted decades of PGA Tour dominance and persuaded major champions to make the jump. However, a public legal war over clawbacks and unearned bonuses threatens to undermine LIV Golf's core pitch to the sport's elite players. If guaranteed contracts carry fine print conditions that allow management to reclaim funds during personal leaves or performance slumps, the perceived safety net begins to evaporate. PGA Tour loyalists and league executives are closely monitoring the dispute, recognizing that any fracture in LIV's player-friendly image shifts leverage right back toward traditional circuits. Moreover, this friction exposes the broader challenges inherent in operating an independent startup league funded by foreign sovereign wealth. As investors demand accountability and measurable returns on their multi-billion-dollar commitments, the boundary between player independence and corporate oversight grows increasingly blurred. If LIV Golf successfully forces one of its foundational icons to forfeit tens of millions, it sets a dramatic precedent across all professional sports, proving that in the modern era of commercialized golf, contract enforcement will always supersede reputation. Whether this high-stakes standoff ultimately ends in a private financial settlement, an explosive breach of contract trial, or an unexpected reconciliation, one reality is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The honeymoon between LIV Golf and its marquee stars may be over. Phil Mickelson spent 3 decades building one of the most recognizable legacies in golf, only to find himself at the center of a corporate battle involving millions of dollars, contractual obligations, and the future of his reputation. What makes this situation especially significant is that it goes far beyond Mickelson himself, as professional sports organizations become increasingly aggressive about enforcing contracts and protecting their financial interests. The balance between player independence and executive control is being tested like never before. Guaranteed money may create security, but it can also come with conditions that become impossible to ignore when relationships begin to deteriorate. Now we turn the question over to you. Do you believe LIV Golf is justified in demanding its money back, or should the league honor the verbal promises allegedly made to secure Mickelson's signature? Share your analysis in the comments below. If you found this deep dive valuable, hit the like button, share this video with fellow golf fans, and subscribe to the channel for continued coverage of the biggest business, legal, and power struggles shaping professional sports. Because when millions of dollars and major reputations are on the line, the next development could change everything.